The mountain rifle perfected. That's the tagline for Alpine Riflecraft's new Zenith rifle. Is it the perfect mountain rifle? Well, let's find out. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the design features on the Zenith. So starting off, we have a receiver manufactured out of 6246 titanium. Comes with integral scope mounts, dovetail mounting system, 1-inch 30mm rings are your options, 4 screws on the rings. When I got mine, all I had to do was basically mount the scope. I put the bore sighter on, and it was basically pretty much zeroed. So lapped rings, I'm presuming. I haven't asked Mike what the protocol is for that, but it's pretty much ready to go. You have a flush mounted bolt release, which is really, really nice. Doesn't hang up. You hardly know what's there. We have the raceways themselves are a radius design, which really provides a really smooth action. So basically there's little to no wobble at all when you slide that bolt in. The magazine itself is 3-inch capable. I load just under, a few thou under with my hand loads. It feeds really well. The magazine itself is manufactured out of a billet aluminum double stack design. And one really cool feature I love about this rifle, I like to single feed when I'm at the range. If I'm shooting groups or practicing, just like to drop them in. And it single feeds really, really nice. And then the bolt itself is manufactured out of a nitrated 4330V alloy. It's a controlled round feed, full length extractor, roller cock on open. Nice thing about this rifle, 3-position safety. I love a 3-position safety. I do find some of the older, like Model 70s and stuff, that they are a little sticky, and sometimes you have to be a little aggressive to get them to cycle, which really isn't a bad thing if you want to make sure it's safe, but this one is extremely smooth. The barrels are manufactured by International Barrels out of Chilliwack, 416 stainless, or you can get the carbon wrapped stainless barrel. This one is carbon wrapped, 20 inches. The barrels come with a recessed target crown, and then Mike has his design directional time muzzle brake. 2 ports where the barrel's threaded for a cap. You can pull the muzzle brake off, put the cap on. Comes with a tool as well. These barrels, I've had several of them in multiple rifles over the years. I find them to be very accurate. I've never had any issues with them at all. My break-in procedure is 40 rounds. Every 40 rounds I do a soft cleaning. Up to about 120 rounds, then I find that the barrel speeds up a little bit and then stays consistent after that. And then I clean them once a season. These rifles are field strippable with torque screws. The rifles come with a Trigger Tech trigger, which I think mine was set at 2.5 pounds. Extremely smooth triggers. If you've used one, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's talk about the stock. I'm going to do my best to hold my phone and show you guys the stock here. So in my opinion, the stock on the Zenith is the secret sauce behind the balance between ultralight and shootability. Mike worked on the design of this stock for years, coming up with the different geometric patterns and ergonomics, and finally settled on this design. He partnered up with Wildcat Composites out of Edmonton, Alberta. If you know Wildcat, they have been in the business for a long time. They make it's like a hybrid carbon/glass stock, super light, super durable. I've got them on several rifles and have for over the years, and just absolutely love them. So starting at the back, basically you have a negative comb design, and then you have a generous palm swell with thumb shelf on each side. The bottom of the stock at the rear is flat. The action's epoxy bedded into the stock. It's a blind mag design. You've got torque screws holding the gun together. It's field strippable. As you move forward, you see as well underneath the front fore-end part of the stock is also flat, which lends itself to very good balance if you're out in the field. and you don't have time to throw a bipod on, you can just use a log or your backpack. The rifle comes equipped with these twin screw swivels, which don't move, so they're in there solid. And as an option, Mike has added the ability to install the Spartan Precision gunsmith adapter, which I think is a great feature. I'm using Spartan with it, and in fact, the best group that I've shot with this rifle yet was used in combination with the Spartan Precision Hoplite tripod. So basically, like I said, the ergonomics, the comfort, the geometry behind this stock, I think are some of the main reasons that this rifle is very tame when you're shooting it. The muzzle jump is actually minimal for such a light rifle. I mean, this rifle starts life before you put a scope on it at 4 pounds and change. And as it sits here with the scope on it with the Swarovski Z5, it's 5 pounds 13 ounces. So you need all the help you can get with a light rifle like this. And again, just a dream to shoot. Very consistent when you hold it up to your shoulder and your cheek. It's just a dream to shoot this rifle with this stock. So at the time of this recording, which is early June 2025, the Zenith is available in the following chamberings. So using a standard bolt face and 3-inch action, it's available in 6, 25, and 6.5 Creedmoor. It's also available in 6.5 284 Winchester, 7mm .8, 284 Winchester, 308 Winchester, and 338 Federal. When I ordered my rifle, I chose the 284 Winchester, and I'm going to break down a little bit later as to why we chose that. But yeah, there's more calibers coming, I'm sure, but that's what's available today. So when I first started talking to Mike Drury about caliber selection for this rifle, we went back and forth on several different choices. I was sort of reverse engineering where I wanted to go with this gun. My goals and intent for this rifle were to make it effective out to 500 yards. That was sort of my max effective range. But I wanted the ability to be able to shoot an animal out to, say, 650. And the reason I say that is if by chance, I had a wounded animal with under 500 and in, I wanted to make sure I could kill it if it was, running away or over a ridge top. My thought process here was to design a rifle that would use the Nosler 160 grain AccuBond and 7mm caliber. I've had great success with that particular bullet in other rifles and thought it would be a great choice for a mountain rifle. So we boiled down the ballistics and came up with the 284 Winchester. The 284 Winchester, when you seat that bullet out far enough within that 3-inch magazine capacity, allows for enough powder that you could achieve an effective muzzle velocity of 2,800 feet per second, which was my goal. If I could hit 2,800 feet per second, then I would have at least 1,800 feet per second impact velocity out to 500 plus yards. So I'm going to get into the load development process with you guys a little bit later, but the short story is I was able to get 2,845 feet per second average, and I take that average over about 80 rounds. Once I chose my load, it's 80 to 100, and I just took all my data and kind of averaged out my velocity. It did change a little bit depending on temperature and altitude. I live down in the lower mainland BC, so I'm basically at sea level, and where I do my shooting is around 3,500 feet. These rifles come with a .75 MOA accuracy guarantee. In the case of the 284 Winchester, there's limited factory ammunition, and it's a caliber that's best suited to the hand loader. My goal was to develop a load with the 160 grain Nosler AccuBond. I was hoping to achieve muzzle velocity of 2,800 feet per second. So I had a surplus of 140 grain AccuBonds at home, and I decided to use those to start the barrel break-in and test out some powders. The rifle shot the 140s very well, but my focus was the 160 grain AccuBond. Jumping into quick load, I shortened the list of powders and soon narrowed it down to Vitavuri N555 and N560. Both powders shot very well, and it boiled down to efficiency with case capacity and burnt powder percentage. I decided to run with N555 and started ladder testing. I found a flat spot between 56.3 and 56.8 grains of powder. ES was very stable and consistent, and my vertical group size was consistently sub quarter inch, which is something I look for. Velocities were consistent in that 2835 to 2850 range, and at the end of the day I settled on 56.6 grains of N555. I couldn't play with seating depth as the magazine length determined my cartridge overall length. Please note, this load data was developed for my particular rifle, and I would highly recommend that you work your way up slowly and carefully when developing a load. So I loaded up 50 rounds and started group shooting and breaking the barrel in. Point of impact was consistent, extreme spread was low, and groups were tight. Once I hit the 100 to the 110 round count, the velocity settled in at 2845 feet per second average. I took this average over 80 to 100 rounds. As mentioned earlier, I wanted to achieve 2,000 feet per second at 500 yards, and this load would actually have me at 2,000 feet per second at 600 yards with over 1,400 foot-pounds of energy on impact. More than enough for my needs. This load was consistently 0.25 to 0.5 MOA on the bench and 0.75 in field positions if I did my job. Now it's time for field testing and practice. The one concern I had when I ordered this rifle was, what was it going to be like to shoot, given that it's so light, 4.5 pounds before a scope. Shootability is something that's very important for me with a rifle, and the key points that I look for in shootability are fitment, cheek weld, grip, length of pull, and most important to me is natural point of aim. When I say natural point of aim, when I shoulder that rifle, I want to shoulder it the same way every single time and not have to strain to look down the barrel or through the scope. So the way I test that is I will close my eyes, shoulder the rifle, open my eyes. And in this case, this rifle just fits me. Recoil and recoil management is super important to me. I look for what the muzzle will do upon firing. Where's that barrel going to go after you pull the trigger? Recoil and muzzle jump are mitigated very well with this rifle, with the muzzle brake and the ergonomic design of the stock all combined to like really nice recoil management. The ability to spot impacts is important to me. I tested this rifle out to 650 yards at various ranges using a 10-inch plate. I found that shooting to 300 yards in all of the field positions that I tried, I was able to spot my impacts on that plate at 300 yards, no problem. Beyond that, I found it a little tough out at 500 and 600 yards to spot the impact on the actual plate. But keep in mind, I'm looking at a 10-inch plate at 600 yards with a 10 power scope. Also, one thing to consider here, the rifle does have a little bit of muzzle jump, but in my case, I'm shooting a 284 Winchester with 160 grain AccuBond going 2,850 feet a second. That's knocking on 7 SAUM territory on the lower end of the scale, and that's a lot going on in a 5-pound, 13-ounce rifle system. I think if you were shooting some of the other calibers in the 6.5 range and maybe the 7.08, even the 308, I think you're going to find it easier to hold and spot your impacts. I have about 200 rounds through this rifle now downrange. Over 100 of those are shot in field positions, various field positions from prone to shooting on my knee, shooting off a backpack, all kinds of different scenarios. I've got some videos I'm going to share showing a little bit of the shootability with this rifle and the muzzle jump, but overall I find the shootability, ergonomics, fitment, all of those things are excellent with this rifle. Is it the perfect mountain rifle? Well, I think the answer to that is very subjective, and there probably isn't one solid answer. However, this rifle employs traditional design features like a controlled round feed, a 3-position safety, dovetail scope mounts, traditional stock versus chassis. It's a fully engineered rifle using the best available components, all of which are manufactured in Canada. The gun is ultralight, probably the lightest rifle you'll be able to find. It's very durable, it's very dependable, and it's very accurate. Now, is this rifle for everybody? I would say no. This is not an ELR style rifle, it's just simply too light. When you have a rifle of this weight, you need to respect your limitations with it, and you need to practice with it. But in the hands of somebody who's done that and is comfortable with the rifle, I think you are safe to make shots out to 600 yards on game. That could be argued, and I'm sure it will be by many people, depending how far, but that's my comfort zone, and that's my personal opinion. Alpine Riflecraft is a Canadian family business based out of Calgary, Alberta. When you order a rifle from Alpine, you will be in communication with the owner and the designer, Mike Drury. Mike will keep you posted on the build right from day one until delivery, and then most importantly, he'll be in touch with you after the fact. The service is cradle to grave. Mike will support this gun as long as you own it. One thing I really respect about Alpine Riflecraft, and Mike Drury in particular, is they support conservation. Alpine is a big supporter of the Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta and the Wild Sheep Society of BC. And those things matter to me personally, and they should matter to most of you. If you're going to buy an Alpine Riflecraft rifle, do so with confidence. And when you reach out to Mike Drury, tell him I sent you. And thank you for watching.